Welcome to the Practitioner's Rise podcast. I'm your host, Hailey Cook, marketing strategist, natural health advocate, and a mom on a mission. Each week, I sit down with natural health and wellness practitioners from around the country who are doing incredible life-changing work. We go deep on the things you've been Googling at midnight, share real tips and resources, and my hope is that you walk away feeling more informed, more empowered, and more confident in the choices you're making for yourself and your family. Because I fully believe that when practitioners rise, entire communities rise with them. So let's dive in. Today's guest is a good friend and someone I personally turn to when I'm searching for answers for myself and my kids. She is one of those rare people who truly understands both worlds. Kelli Cook is a nurse practitioner, an RYT 200 yoga instructor with additional training in hot yoga, children's yoga, and sound healing, and the founder of the Yoga Plant here in Chippewa Falls, which is a studio rooted in presence, peace, and joy. She weaves breathwork, guided meditation, aromatherapy, and sound healing into everything she does, which creates an experience that goes far beyond what most people expect from a yoga class. But before the studio, before the mat, there was a moment where Kelli looked at the path she was on and decided there had to be a better way. And that decision really changed the trajectory of her life and where she is today. So, Kelli, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here, and I cannot wait to dive in.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here. It's fun to talk about this like it's already been occurred because I feel like it's still happening, but it's true. There has been a big transformation. So, yeah.
And I know your story, and I feel like I bother you all of the time with these texts, especially like in the middle of the night, like, is my child going to be okay?
Yeah.
So I always like to start with story to really help people understand how you got to where you are today. So your career started as a nurse practitioner and then something shifted. So can you just share what was happening in your life that maybe started pulling you in a different direction?
Yes. As an RN, I've always been pulled to a more holistic approach to your mind, body, spirit all being connected. We have just this big united, body and mind and spirit that all affect each other. So I always knew, even as an RN, that you had to approach the person as a whole being and figure out how to find that path to wellness through multiple different approaches and methods. And so that really intrigued me. I was always called to feel good in my mind as well as my body. So as a nurse practitioner then, I really started out in the conventional medicine space, which is, traditional like Western medicine. And it just felt operational, factory like, and very disconnected to the human experience. And so that didn't feel very good, but I was always able, because I talked to my people, my patients, to still connect to them. And I felt like I was still helping people on a level that was a little deeper than just that conventional medicine approach. But then just as time went on, I started feeling more and more confined to that box of not being able to really, truly help people. And the more educated I became in the body and the mind and the spiritual connection to your holistic wellness, the more I knew that I had to really embody that in my practice, and that I wasn't really speaking my truth by only practicing in a conventional Western medicine space. So that was where I started to shift. It was hard in my current roles to make that shift. So I really branched out. As I fell into love with yoga, I really branched out more into the yoga space and kind of like dually helped people by being in a yoga community and then becoming a yoga teacher and opening the yoga studio. But then I was still practicing two different kind of realms. And it just felt like I really needed to embody that as a holistic approach. As fate would have it, I was laid off from my conventional medicine job and felt like it was the way that I was supposed to be in the yoga plant realm. And then my license came up for renewal, and I really stewed on that for a couple months trying to figure out if it was time to let my license go and not be a nurse practitioner anymore, or if there was something where I could help people on a holistic way. And so the yoga plant and being a yoga instructor and breath work and energy work and all of the things that we do at the yoga studio really felt like feels like home. It feels good. It feels like it's definitely speaking my truth and and being able to help people. But I was able to also move into the functional medicines kind of space where I can speak to all of it. And I've learned so much more about the function and optimizing the physical body. And that's complemented by leaps and bounds when you add in the mind and spirit aspect of it. Our functional medicine practice where I'm at, I really get time with people and I love that. So it's been just a breath of fresh air to be able to physically be able to learn and educate and work with people, and then to be able to be at the studio and pull that all together with the mind, body, spirit. So the transformation has probably been, a good 14 years in the making. The yoga studio has now been open for a little over 3 years. And then I've been in the functional medicine space for about a year, a little over a year. It feels like it's still evolving, but I feel like I'm able to help people on a much deeper level.
Thank you for sharing that because I think it helps understand like where you're coming from. And I think before I move on, I'd love to speak to it too, just because I know, like you had said, it was really hard for you to feel like you were really, really helping people when there was that competing of like the more holistic side versus the traditional Western medicine. And during this time period, we also had like the pandemic and all of the things that Western medicine was like mandating and putting into place. Do you think that made your decision easier to kind of make that leap, or do you wanna talk more about, like, just how it was so disconnected for you?
I started feeling really isolated and lonely in the conventional medicine space. So it was disheartening and actually, physically saddening to me to be in a place where I should be helping people and I should be surrounded by people that I also feel like are helping people. I like to feel like I'm surrounding myself with other like minded people when I do things. Of course, I respect other people's opinions and I respect that there's not just one way to do something. And I believe as strongly as I do about my path as somebody else does about theirs. But I really think that when you have faith in the people around you, that they're also helping people. When you can speak to your patient and say, this is so and so, they're amazing, they're really going to help you. And you lift each other up and you place that value in your fellow colleagues. And I didn't feel that. And that was really more than anything the thing that just I knew that if I couldn't tell someone that my fellow colleague is gonna help them, then I can't be doing this. It was really isolating, and it definitely helped me just know that this isn't the place for me.
I think that leads us kind of into the next space of talking about that disconnect from yourself or that struggle with self love. And that takes a lot of courage to talk about. And I think just that transition of knowing this wasn't really what you were meant to do, this wasn't how you could really help people. Can you walk us through maybe what that journey looked like and what it's taught you?
The hook I hang like all my hats on is the self-love hook, because if you don't treat yourself in every aspect, whether it's your job, your home life, your financial life, you have to treat yourself in a holistic aspect of self-love. And by choosing a role that wasn't nourishing to me, that was not giving myself love. So as I became to become more aware of loving myself, choosing the path that's for me, it was so evident of where I had to go, because that's if I love myself and I want the best for me, and not in a selfish way, but I love myself and I want the best what's for me, I have to follow that path and and divert from maybe the path that I had first started on. And I definitely heard from a handful of people that we're like, well, why would you quit being a nurse practitioner? You should be a nurse practitioner that's safe. There's a job, there's security, there's always going to be money in it, and it was just like, well, what good is that if I don't, if I'm not loving myself in that way?
When you say that too, and once you kind of made the shift, made this leap, that things started to show up and it became evident like this new path was for you. And it just reminded me, only because I was in a call with this coach before. She does a lot of like energy and healing work, and part of what she says in her group is like, you can't make this shit up, right? Like, things start happening when you have that mindset and that energy and you are happy and you just feel like this is what you're supposed to do. Like, you start calling in those things. I've seen that a lot just in the transition that I've been making too.
Yeah, definitely. It feels like things get easier, not always easier. I think patience is a big thing. It's taken time and momentum for me to feel like this transition, this hard work is paying off in a sense of freedom, financial aspect. And because, I mean, my family and my freedom, my life freedom is very important to me as well as my own like social, mental, and spiritual health, wellness. I remember my banker looking at me when he said, so how many teachers are you going to need? And I said, well, I think I'm going to need like 13 or 14 teachers. And he was like, where are you going to get 13 or 14 teachers? I was like, I don't know. I think they're going to come. And he was like, they're just going to come. How are you going to get, and I remember saying that if I know they're here, they're out there. I just have to provide a space that aligns with them. And truly, like, that was one of the first eye openers to me is it was like that. I opened the space, and actually I didn't even open the space. I started talking about the space, and the messages from teachers started rolling in. And by the time we opened, I had enough teachers to cover the schedule. And I was like, see, Mr. Banker, I knew they were out there. So
I knew they would come.
yeah.
I'm glad you said that too. It takes time and there is sacrifice, and it isn't just this easy path once you start on that journey. And I think that's especially true with self-love, because as a mom especially, I think we can struggle with that a lot, and just taking care of ourselves, because there's also so many other people that need taking care of. And sometimes we can have that guilt of like, even me, I keep saying like, Kelly, I'm going to make it to the yoga plant and dedicate time to do yoga. And it just keeps taking a back seat because I'm like, oh, but I need to do this, or I should do that. Or you feel guilty for taking time to yourself. So can you talk more to that, and maybe just what it looks like to start?
I think that the biggest power move you can have is letting go of the idea that it has to look like a certain way. And I tell this to patients all the time. Even 15 minutes in your day, it doesn't have to be a class or an hour spent at the gym or some retreat or something like monumental. Even if it's 15 minutes that you just dedicate to do something that you enjoy, or be in the sunshine, or have your bare feet on the grass, or something that is it's your power move to just let go of the guilt that it wasn't enough time. You enjoyed that time, and it was something that you did for yourself. So making sure that if it's not an hour of time that you dedicate to yourself, it's still time, and just celebrating that. I mean, I feel like I have a shortage of time as well. But I've found the best time for me is early in the morning before everybody gets up. Even when I hear that first yell, mama, I'm always like, it wasn't enough time. But I know that at least I had some, and it's a season, and there's going to be other seasons of my life. So just setting your expectations small, under scheduling. Like, I just feel like the biggest power move is under scheduling and leaving free time, knowing that the things that you scheduled for the day were attainable and not putting more things on the day's schedule than are attainable so that you can finish and be like, there, I got done what I wanted to get done today because you planned on under scheduling yourself. That's been my biggest power move is under scheduling.
For someone that might be listening that is like, well, that sounds great. How do I do that? Because I have so much going on. I have kids, I have sports, I have all of this stuff. So I think where can they start? But also, what are some of the things? Because I know you're a busy mom too, right? You have four kids, they're in sports, you have a business and other things. Like maybe what are some of your habits or ways that you sneak in time? I know you said right away in the morning, but are there other things that our listeners could take and maybe start implementing?
Yeah, sleep has been a big one for me. So I really try to go to sleep at night and not work after everyone goes to bed. That was a habit that I cut out. I go to bed so that I can get up in the morning because I know that I enjoy that time so much more than the nighttime. So for me, that is one is just going to bed, more help. And finances do, play into that, of course, but sometimes if you can organize enough that you can get some help and free up some schedule stuff, that is a big one. Even 15 minutes, if you can get 15 minutes a day to whether it's journaling or walking outside or just sitting quietly with a cup of coffee or something like that. I mean, those little moments are really huge if you can do it regularly. So for me, it was sleep and going to bed and not working late. Meal prepping is a big one for me too. That's a big one for me is meal prepping because I want to feed my family nourishing food. And so if I don't plan ahead, then I feel like I'm failing them. I really like to have things ready to make.
Like you said, getting more help and not being afraid to ask for it or feel that guilt too. So like even meal prep, ordering groceries, whether they can or you can pick them up. Like I
Mhm.
hate grocery shopping. So if I
Yeah.
can order it on my phone, that saves me tons of time. But also the sleep thing. I recently just started doing that because I also enjoy the quiet morning before anyone meets me. But I'm usually too tired to get out of bed.
Yeah.
So going to bed earlier to know, okay, now I actually have that time in the morning where I can journal and meditate and drink my coffee and do the things. And yes, it's going to get interrupted. I know that.
Yeah.
But I still feel like I have such a better day when
Yeah.
I start that way. It just like everything feels more organized and it feels calmer and I just feel more energized when
Yes.
I can get that even 15 minutes to myself.
Yeah. A little bit of time to regroup in the morning is a big, big one. And that's hard when you have little ones, like really hard. I have a child who notices when I get out of bed.
Yes.
So that's a problem.
Oh, yes. I was just saying that the other day to someone. I was like, I tried this new habit of waking up early, and someone else also think it's now their new habit of waking up early. So trying to be really extra quiet so that doesn't happen. But yes, I know this is kind of a big buzzword right now, and a lot of people are talking about it, but it's also really important. So, I want to talk about breath work because I know this is something that you practice. It's a big part of yoga in the studio, and it's a really underestimated tool, also.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
explain more about like what breath work is, what's happening in the body when you breathe intentionally. Why is it so?
Originally, yoga was breath work before it was any movement. So it was meditative and breath work, and there was no physical movement. And the breath is the difference between your alive body and a body that is not alive. So it's your life force energy. And the mechanism, the physical body notices when you have a deeper inhale and a longer exhale. It activates that relaxing mechanism in your body. So even just without intention, by intention, I mean like thoughts, but even just the pure deeper inhale and longer exhale is going to activate a cascade of parasympathetic nervous system. So your body just taking it down a notch. And naturally that parasympathetic nervous system also then sets off a cascade of better immunity, of more circulation, of innervating or giving more vital nerves and circulation blood flow to your abdomen, to your organs, so you feel better, you digest better. As you activate your parasympathetic nervous system, you activate all of the feel good things that your body needs. So if we're always in that short, rapid breath pattern, we're really missing out on a big part of your natural healing. All breath work doesn't have to be a deep inhale and a long exhale, because sometimes we'll do patterns of more activating breath, like quicker, shorter breaths. And some of those help you to also set off that cascade of better immune system, blood flow, different things. And so once you pull in then the intention, the thoughts, your body is listening to your thoughts. And so not only are you now activating the parasympathetic nervous system and all the feel good that follows that, but then you're pulling in that intention of any sort of thought, whether even if you think of just the word love or just the word I am grounded or I'm connected or I'm healed or anything that is an intention, that word is going to be felt in each cell of the body. And just like everything has a vibration, the words have a vibration. And so that thought then is reverberated with that vibration throughout the body. I mean, when you speak a word to a molecule of water and then freeze it, it's going to freeze in the vibration of that word. So there's lots of research on this. And the chaotic, haphazard crystals that form out of lower vibration words, hate, shame, lie, pain, anger, all of those words are going to lead to a lower vibration and less healing in the body, because the higher vibration, the more healing, the more circulation, and the lower vibration, the less. Um, so that's where when you pull in the intention, and also, I mean, if you think about anything that you think, so if you're looking around the room and you're like, oh, what's red? What's red? What's red? And you're like, oh, that's red. Now you notice all these things that are red. And then you close your eyes and somebody asks you what's blue. You can't remember what's blue because you were looking at what was blue. So when you're looking for something or you're thinking about that thing, you bring about more of it and you see more of it. And then you don't see the things that you're not looking for. So there's the intentional piece of bringing more of what you want into your life.
I knew it was important, but I also didn't know that it went that deep. And so it's funny because lately I'm always telling my kids, like, in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the
Yep.
mouth, like trying to teach them in a way of like breathing is important to
Yeah.
bring us back to calm. But I love what you're saying behind intention, right? So
Mhm.
if we're feeling chaotic or stressed or I think using breathing. So, do you have any techniques or things that you can share with our listeners of like, maybe if you're feeling really stressed out, or if this is part of like that self love, right?
Even a few minutes of like a box breath where you're breathing in for the count of 4, pausing at the top of the breath for 2 to 4 counts, and then breathing out for the count of 4 or 5, so that that exhale is just a little bit longer than the inhale, and then pausing at the bottom of the breath for 2 to 4 seconds and before you take in that next inhale, and doing that for anywhere for a couple minutes or longer, but that's enough to de-escalate chaotic thoughts. And another ticket to breath is the mindfulness. So when you're in the first few minutes of yoga, or but this applies to any breath work, and you find the focus on the inhale and focus on the exhale, you're not letting in the clutter of the thoughts of the other anything else. Even just that awareness of the breath is going to declutter whatever clutter, thoughts you had going on before. So it just helps you focus, kind of brings you into the moment, quieting the chatter of the noise of their schedule and things by that focus on the breath.
I've been talking a lot about with other people too on awareness. And so I think this breath work can also bring that awareness of starting to notice, like, when are you having these types of thoughts, or what's happening and how is it improving.
If you're somebody that you just don't think of it during the day, maybe setting a time like right before you fall asleep to take 10 big breaths, because 10 big breaths are going to take you a couple minutes to get through. And it's also going to help you fall asleep easier. By focusing on the breath, you're quieting the chatter in your mind. And so that can be a time to start incorporating some awareness in the breath. Or if there's something else that's a usual schedule for you. So maybe you check your emails at whatever time, maybe before you check your email, your rule is that you take a few big breaths, and that might help your responses to your emails, or you're feeling like onslaught of too much to do. So I think that's another option for awareness, is before something that you know is stressful or triggering, to maybe take those couple minutes to kind of breathe in, breathe out longer than you breathe in.
It's helpful just to have some of those like quick things we can do. And then I just want one more question to that. How can we teach our kids to be more intentional about this? It's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. And obviously want to teach our kids to be kind humans, but so much that's being thrown at them every single day, whether it's just in school or community, or like they're just growing up in a more stressful environment than ever, more chaotic. And I want to be able to instill upon them, like, to be able to be still and
Mhm.
focus and be aware. And
Mhm.
that breath is important, but sometimes they just look at me like I'm a crazy person. And so I don't know if you have any tips, or like, how can we instill that on our kids, or is it just practicing it?
Definitely they learn the most by example, but I've started to actually explain if I get upset and I decide that I'm gonna, like cool my jets for a minute before I lose my mind, I'll say, I'm gonna go over here and take some big breaths because I feel like I need to cool off for a minute. And I'll just speak it out loud so that, you know, he can see that that's what I'm doing, because I can feel that I'm frustrated. Or in the morning when nobody's moving and it's time to go, I'll say, I'm feeling really frustrated. I can tell that I need some big breaths and I need to slow down and, focus on the things that I can control. So I'm trying to talk it out loud, because if I'm sitting there taking deep breaths, he's probably not realizing it. And we also talk about when other people are having a time, like maybe we see another child having a difficult time, and just kind of saying, no, what would be something you think that he could do? Or what would you do in that situation? And always bringing in that, slowing down, taking a step away, taking some big breaths, thinking through it a little bit more clearly. And when I shut my laptop or something, I'll say, I'm really done with this screen right now. I think, I've been on my screen too much, and I'll say it out loud.
Mhm.
So why don't I just say it out loud that I think it's time for me to be done on my screen? So now he tells me, I think it's done for you to be done on your screen now. Well, that backfired, because I still need to do some things.
Yes. Oh, they listen. They're really good listeners when they want to be. But I think it also goes back to the self-love thing and how we can teach them to have that self-love too, instead of trying to learn it later in life. Is like, how can we instill those things upon our kids? Because it can be really hard, especially in the heat of the moment when you're on your last straw and you're ready to just blow up, right? So being able to practice, and or I've been doing that where it's like, okay, I'm sorry, mom shouldn't have reacted that way.
Yeah.
Here's why and what I could have done instead.
And that's a really good one, is explaining when you know that you could have handled something better. I think it's really important for kids to know that it's okay to mess up, to acknowledge it, to realize that, the people that you maybe reacted to still love you and that you still love them, and everyone can just be better. And I can say though, I feel like my big kids are great humans. So even when you feel like you mess up a lot, it turns out that doing your best does count.
And I was just going to ask that too, because I know you have older kids too and teens. Do you see a difference there in, I guess, just how it was raising them as how it is now your youngest, and like the things that you're instilling upon? Because Now that I'm learning so much more in different ways of like, you can't look back on what I did on the beginning, right? I can't look back and say, oh my gosh, I've messed them up because I didn't do this from the beginning, right? It's only what can we do going forward.
The screens are the biggest challenge, I would say. But other than that, I don't know. I mean, the foundational stuff is all the same and just love and physical connection and being outside as much as we can and teaching. Rhett will now ask me if he can have something and he'll say, I'll have my protein and vegetables first.
Yes, I love that.
And speaking the words and teaching them what are those things? What is protein and why do we want it? Speaking about it so that they understand the reason why you might be saying, well, maybe that's not a good choice right now, but the explanation.
So that kind of leads me into the last thing. We talked a lot about at the beginning that you're still practicing as a nurse practitioner alongside running the yoga plant. And you do a lot with health and hormones. And how do these two worlds work together and help you show up for your patients? You want to talk a little bit more to that?
Yeah, it works beautifully because I know that you create, you nourish your body and create the best physical body of it that you can through nutrients and being physically active and keeping, the the body hydrated. And you have to feed yourself like you love yourself. That's self-love again. But yeah, it goes hand in hand with the functional medicine and optimizing your hormones because there's just only so much you can do physically if you're not nourishing your mind and and I don't speak to any certain spiritual journey or connection, just some connection that you have with your belief system.
So hormones is a big overarching topic, right? But if somebody's like, I want to get help from Kelli, or I'm feeling this certain type of way, like, can you just share more about who you help at Revitalizing Health and Hormones so that if someone wants to find you, they can?
We are helping teens on up into seniors, and there's just so much that your hormones help and impact every function of your body. So from the troubles that teens struggle with, literally anxiety, depression, acne, menstrual symptoms, lots of things, muscle growth or lack thereof, and physical growth, and then all the way through the spectrum. So we see people for, optimizing fertility all the way through post baby and that rocky road, and then perimenopausal, menopausal, and postmenopausal, and lots of men. So men really do experience hormonal changes too. Estrogen and testosterone are present in the male body. And so I hear a similar story a lot of times, but the whole gamut is what I talk with patients about. And hormones can be a big factor, but it's not everything that we do. So nutrition and vitamins and mineral and gut health, lots of gut health, inflammation, blood sugar regulation. Like I start out with people and just say, we do so many things here that we do. Let's start out with your main priorities, and then we'll go into different phases as we go down the road. Otherwise, there's just too much to tackle at once.
Okay. Well, I know that we could talk forever and we should probably do a whole nother episode on hormones because I think that's a big topic too. But for the sake of time, it's really all about helping. I know people physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and you can do that a lot through your work as a nurse practitioner and as a yoga instructor and all the things. So thank you, Kelli. I will have all of your links in the show notes. Is there any final words you want to share? Otherwise, thank you so much for being here.
No, thank you for having me, and just happy to network with other like-minded people like you.
Thanks for being here today. I hope this episode gave you something you needed, whether that's a new perspective, a resource to explore, or just the reminder that you're not alone in this journey. And if today's episode spoke to you, tag me on Instagram, share with a friend, leave a review. That's how we build stronger, healthier communities together. One practitioner, one story, one family at a time. So see you next week. And if you're a natural health and wellness practitioner with a story to tell, I'd love to connect. You can find me at practitionersrise.com. Thank you.